Shannon Chawla, and we're going to be having a discussion. Discussion sounds kind of stale. We're going to be having a dynamic conversation about the next evolution of healing. But before we do that, I want to hit go live on Instagram. Okay. Uh, Shannon, how long have you been in practice?
Over 26 years.
Okay. So here's a person, and you're in practice right now. So you've been
Yeah,
practicing
full-time
26
person.
years. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a human who has seen a lot, who has understood a lot. I know from my 20 years of clinical practice, it took like probably 5 years for me to feel somewhat confident. And then
Mhm.
at 10 years, I felt like I kind of had a nice stride. At
Mhm.
somewhere between like 17 to 20 years, I really felt like I was tapping into the zone of mastery, which didn't mean that I had everything figured out, but it's that I had worked with enough people and seen cycles and seasons in
Mhm.
people's lives, in my own life, uh, but also I had seen, I don't know if I've never said it this way, but cycles and I guess it was like evolutions in my own understanding of things. Pain being
Mhm.
one of them, which we're going to talk about today, healing
Mhm.
being another one of them, which I continue
Mhm.
to keep uh, kind of pushing the boundary of what my understanding of healing actually is.
Mhm.
So I want to say one more thing for context. And uh, actually, I just want to ask you a question. What I- when I say the next evolution of healing, what do you think, or what do you want to say about that, or what does that even mean to you
Mhm.
as a masterful clinician who's got her hands in the clay?
I think what you just said about how, the longer we're in practice, the more we get to like have more play and interest in like, wow, what's really happening here? And I think in the beginning, we have a lot invested in fixing people. We have a
Mm,
lot invested in like getting it right. And sometimes I think we get in the way of what's really supposed to happen when we're doing that, right? Yes,
mm,
we need to know our skill. Yes, we need to have studied and know our art form and be aware of what is happening when someone comes in, right? It's like this mixture of really knowing the science, really knowing what you're doing. And then there's this space though that as you begin to practice more, um, that that starts to unfold, right? And so when a
mm,
patient comes in now, I feel like I have this much more expansive experience of the situation. I no
mm,
longer am looking at, oh, my left shoulder is hurting. It's like, okay, that's great. That's a piece of the pie, right?
mm,
But let's kind of see what else is being presented there. So, when
mm,
you say, what is this next evolution of healing? And I believe that's where we're headed. You look at what's happening now in the conversations just out in the world where everyone's talking about the nervous system all of a sudden. Everyone's talking
mm,
about balancing our nervous system, changing patterns, right? That it's being spoken about in a way that has so much more bearing on the energetic than it
mm.
ever did before,
That's true,
right?
isn't it?
It really is. It's like
Mm.
people are starting to actually have these conversations that, okay, well, it's not just about this.
A
It's about
malfunctioning shoulder joint
yeah,
or whatever.
like, and I find that as people are coming in now, they're way more open to that possibility. So I
Oh,
think
that's cool.
so. That's my response. Did I answer that?
Yeah. There's a couple pieces, like threads, I think would be worthwhile pulling on. And one I was actually thinking before we got on today was about how it's been my own evolution of how I um, it's so actually, I really have been leaning into this edge that I'm allowing the words to be super fresh because the old ones aren't sufficing anymore. Uh, the rightness and the wrongness of things, the goodness and the badness of things, the way that our nervous system has been conditioned from the very beginning, from when we're born,
Mm.
around if something's right or wrong, how
Mm.
that connects to how we're loved,
Mm.
how that then connects to shame. I mean, all of these themes that you and I have spent a lot of time in being in the healing arts and holding that space for people, that really does become embodied at the nervous system level. Like, is this right? Is this wrong? Am I getting this right? Am I getting this wrong? So
Mhm.
my really deep contemplations have been, if we're not actually orienting to the rightness of, or wrongness of things, but we're not avoiding any of our experience in the moment, then what actually happens? And I really want to go slow here because it's easy to say, okay, yeah, I can see that there's something beyond the rightness and wrongness of things intellectually. But it's another thing to actually have your body meet you there
Mm.
in circumstances that tend to charge stuff. So just to ground this, like, even though this isn't our topic today, but money, money charges the nervous system really fast, and is very highly charged around the rightness and the wrongness of things. But I also think our bodies and pain and health can really connect to that. Like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Is this
Mm.
diet right? Is this diet wrong? Is this practitioner right? Is this practitioner wrong? But as long as that's the fundamental orientation, people aren't going to actually have the spaciousness
Mm.
that
Yeah.
is required, I think, for what we're what at least what I'm thinking about as the next evolution of healing, which really has to do with integration. So it's body, mind, soul, spirit integration.
Yeah. Very well said. I
Mm,
think sometimes when I am speaking with patients and I'm inviting them into this new idea, because sometimes I'll have patients come in and they really want to know, am I doing this right? Am I doing this wrong? So do I do this or do I not? And really what it
mm,
is people are we don't like being uncomfortable as humans,
mhm,
right? That's the basis of it, really. We don't like being uncomfortable. But if we are invited into this place of
mm.
practicing being comfortable being
Just
comfortable with being uncomfortable, does that make
mm,
sense? It's like,
mm,
so then we stop running away and we start
mm,
leaning in. And when we start leaning in and we start being present with just what is, then we actually stop trying to fix,
mhm, mhm,
start to expand in this new way. So for
mm.
somebody who has not thought in this way, it can be a little bit like you're in a
Almost
blender.
disorienting or something.
That's a great way of putting it.
Mhm,
And so it's a slow process of helping the body, the system, the mind, the heart, all of that start to say, okay, how do you just be present with what is and then let this wisdom come forth? So
mm,
in the work that
mm,
I do with the chronic pain, it's often met with, a little bit of like, what are you asking? Like, I just
mm.
need to get rid of this pain because it has taken away my whole experience of life, right?
Mm,
And my response to that is 100%. Like, I absolutely acknowledge your pain and I see it, and I'm not trying to put shame on you or think you're doing it right or wrong. I'm actually doing the
mm,
opposite.
mm,
I'm inviting you into a space to look at, if none of the things you've done has worked, what's missing?
mm,
What's the piece that are like our beings are wanting to just lean into when it comes to pain.
And it's so beautiful what you said in this, when you said what's missing. I also felt the quality of that question because you aren't asking that from a place of, um, what's missing, like, what are you not doing right? What's missing in your diet? Or what, you're actually asking it from, if I understand you correctly, as I felt it, uh, y the
Mhm.
question itself is meant to guide them into like an inner inquiry of, if you've tried all these things and none of this has worked, then the only thing left is like to come in and shift the way you're holding the whole thing. I call it orientation. So you're shifting the
Yeah,
orientation. And when the
yeah,
when the inner orientation shifts, the whole relationship to it shifts.
there you go.
Everything starts to change.
Everything starts to change, Tiffany. Like
Mm.
it really is magical. And it's not so, I mean,
Mhm.
for some people it's overnight, but for most of us, it's a
Yeah.
practice. It's a
Yeah.
practice going, oh, there I am again. And it's about patience too, in some ways, right? Which most of us, one, don't like to be uncomfortable. Two, we're very impatient, right? We
Mm.
want to just feel better right now. But the journey to feeling content, to feeling embodied and whole is just that. It's never a destination.
Yeah, and I'll also say, generally, we can feel better now if we let go of the feeling better now hinging on one particular thing. So, like,
Yeah,
if I
yeah,
had shoulder recently, the shoulder was actually, I had pain in it. And if I were to focus on the pain and say I couldn't feel better right now unless this pain was gone, then I would just continue to feel bad. But if I stay focused on how I could stretch and what the range is, or even just that what I can do with my body, I can feel better now about
yeah,
and the circumstances haven't changed. So two things, we can feel better now, that's where our power is, and the practice of that is what leads to the bigger change, if you will, over time, which is I think what you were also pointing to.
yeah. 100%. That's absolutely
Mhm.
true. So, I myself went through a period of time where I had debilitating low back pain. And it was, stressful time in my life. And I just couldn't figure it out. I was healthy, I was in shape, and I was having debilitating low back pain that literally was making me like lay on the floor. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And all of this stuff was surfacing. Just, I was
Mm.
angry. I was frustrated. I felt like I had no control. And it was my greatest teacher.
Mhm.
And when I let it be my greatest teacher and do exactly what you just said, like when I really started going, okay, what can I do? And how can I find freedom in this? And what is this? I got curious. I started to like
Mm.
get more into a conversation and curiosity about this. And that's when transformation happened, not when I was trying to fix it. Okay, I
Mhm.
need to go do this and I need to do that. No,
Mhm. Mhm.
that actually didn't do a thing,
That's powerful.
right?
Yeah.
So it's my
It's
experience.
power. Yeah. I'm just, I gosh, do I wanna go down this? Yeah. Um, I experienced this a similar thing that you just described when I was in clinical practice with people, and then I I actually needed to step away from doing that kind of work with people because I didn't know how to not join them in the problem and
Mm,
try to fix it, like, try to fix it or feel somehow responsible for helping to fix it. I didn't quite know how to do that in that proximity with people that close. So I didn't know that at the time, I just knew that I was getting the prompting from my own being to step away from my practice, and then also practically speaking, we were traveling more and I wanted to do that. So, then I transitioned more and more. I was teaching and I transitioned more into teaching, and then part of what I was doing was coaching and supporting other entrepreneurs that were healing arts entrepreneurs in creating digital products. This was, like, right post-COVID, or actually when COVID was still going on, I started doing that. And Interestingly, what I saw is, and of course it makes sense, is that that phenomena extends into every field. In other words, for entrepreneurs, whether they're in the healing arts or not, if they're coming from the place of, I need to make more money, or I need to have more sales, or I need to have a larger reach, and they're holding it as the problem that needs to be fixed in order to finally feel okay, then
Yeah.
they will keep staying in that problem energy, grasping, reaching, blaming either themselves or somebody else for not getting the results that they want or for things not changing. But when
Yeah.
they finally make the shift to embrace the process,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
in some ways, to use this kind of charged word, but renounce the practiced habit of needing to make a problem or blame or shame anyone or anything, themselves or someone else, then all of a sudden there's so much freedom and space that opens to really author their experience. So I think it's really noteworthy that even what we're talking about in terms of the next paradigm of healing
Yeah.
is the bedrock of the next paradigm of everything.
It is. It is, right? And that's, and that is I think that's one of the things I do even in myself as I've gone through this process and when I'm working with people is you move a little bit into that space and you're like, and then those old shame voices come back and those old things and you kind of go back and then you just do it again.
Mm,
And then in time, it's like that energy builds and builds and builds, and that piece that used to be the one that always was the guiding voice is very small,
mhm,
right? It becomes smaller because now you've like allowed yourself to move into this beautiful space, right? Or the
mhm,
field, right? So that that conversation that we had had at one point about, what is this field of energy that guides us in all
mm,
things,
mm, mm,
right?
mm,
How do we allow ourselves to be in that place and not so honed in on the right or the wrong or the difficult and the painful?
mhm. So if you were to uh, give suggestions right now from your lived experience with all of this about how one can begin to practice this more, what would it be?
Hmm. I slowed down there because I think it's just that it
Mm,
really is becoming more comfortable with just being present with the moment you're in,
mm,
right? Most of us are just so busy and out in the world and lots of information, and we can have information at the drop of a hat now, right? We can everything is a do, and that I mean, that's just part of our world right now. However, if we want to start feeling like we're more what I like to call embodied, right? A
mhm,
bit more embodied in ourselves, which allows us then to feel more centered and grounded.
mm,
It's just about taking moments throughout the whole day where you stop. You become present with where you're at. Like, are your feet on the ground? Can you feel as if there's two hands on your shoulders that are just dropping you back? Do you put your hand on your heart and take a breath in or out? I just recently, actually, I work with a lot of children who
mm,
have a lot of pain. And this young boy, 13, deals with a lot of pain. And he said, well, I was at camp. I finally went to a camp, but I only got 2 hours before my pain went off the charts. And I said, okay, well, let's talk about what you can do so that you can stay present in what's going to shift your mind back into this place of comfort.
mm,
And so I said, you don't have to leave a room. You don't have to do anything except stop, where exactly where you're at. Close your eyes for a minute, take a breath in, take a breath out, and just feel softness. Just feel your body like feeling soft. Feel your body feeling as if it's receiving all of this love and nourishment and ease. And then
Mm,
I was teaching him to say those words like, all right, I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I'm practicing being comfortable, and I'm protected.
mm,
Right? So it was just these three little words, and it was literally 10 seconds. And I said, just try that. You know,
mm,
take back your power from this
mm,
pain.
mm.
So
Can you say a little bit more about take back your power from this pain?
yeah, that's interesting. I was wondering if you were going to ask that. I think that's something that I actually, I have conversations about with people is that when people have been managing any sort of, chronic health condition, and that can be chronic pain or it can be any sort of chronic health condition, right? Over time, it starts to feel like something outside of ourselves has control of the life we get to lead,
Mhm,
right? And when something is really powerfully challenging and we don't feel like we can live the life we want, we lose what we think is control.
mhm,
And then we start looking outside ourselves for someone else to give us the answer as well.
mhm.
And that's so wonderful that we have, whoever provider, practitioners, healers, community people, spiritual leaders are there to help remind us. But that is the piece that I think is really important in all healing is how do I take back my sovereignty? How do I take back myself feeling like um, I'm not a victim of the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it makes total sense, but I'm seeing it. I like this happens often is that when people talk, I'm seeing the words as energy movements. And
Mm,
so I when every time you say take back, I feel something a little bit different, even though I can feel what you're talking about take back. It's like you withdraw engaging in that way.
hmm,
You withdraw engaging in that way. That's probably what I was calling renunciation. So you withdraw engaging in that way, and then at the same in order to it's I think it's happening simultaneously. It's like sovereignty is arising from within. It's
mm.
arising from within, and I'm just going to actually feel this movement in myself. Um, yeah, I mean it's subtle territory.
Isn't it? I
It's
know.
subtle territory, but the reason why I'm pausing with it is because uh, it's this thing you've heard me say a lot in the Lumina Guild, which is that in this next paradigm that we are giving rise to together because it's not already created, we no longer have to push against what we don't want to create what we do want. And in fact, as long as we're pushing against what we don't want, we're going to keep the very bedrock that keeps old patterns alive. So the new bedrock is what actually is already there when we shift our orientation from one of in essence victimization, that we're not in control of our experience, so something else is. When we shift that orientation to presencing with the self, I am here now, I am the one who's choosing where I place my attention, then we are in the sovereignty. Then it's just natural that the energy withdraws from those dynamics. And I think it's
Mm,
happening simultaneously. So
yeah.
yeah, it is a taking back, but it's also what naturally arises when we shift the orientation. Do you feel, is that clear?
Oh, it's so
Yeah.
clear. I mean, and to me, honestly, like I remember when you first started having those conversations, in the Lumina Guild, and it was like this bright light, which is like, that's it. Like, I think what you are so amazing is you put words to thing in such a way that sometimes it's hard to put words to. But
Mm,
the truth is that, you know, what we are trying to, like, okay, when we
mhm,
are trying to heal from something such as chronic pain or a chronic illness or something, we think that we're trying to, like, get away from it, but sometimes
yes,
we are so staying in it by the trying to fix everything, right?
yes,
And
yes,
so you had talked about this a few weeks ago.
yes,
So what is it that we really want in our lives? And what does it look,
yes,
what does it feel like? And be
yes,
really clear on that, and dream big and enjoy, really feel that, because energetically that is the new paradigm of healing. Because if we
mm,
start moving into that space, we're shifting so many things in our energetic system,
mm,
as
mm,
opposed to kind of staying in the, okay, I have to do this, 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 and this to be well,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
It's a
mhm,
balance, though. Okay, I mean, it is a
mhm,
balance. But this
yeah,
has to be present. This has to be present. You don't know how
mhm,
often that's been present in a conversation
mhm,
around
mhm.
here.
Yeah, it's so cool. I love the way you describe things. I really, really love it. Uh, okay, I'm gonna pause for just a moment just to see if there's anything more, and maybe you do the same for that feels like satisfying to close this with.
You know what? Actually, there's something that did just kind of pop up that
Yeah,
I think is really, really key. So, when you and I are having these conversations, right? And we're kind
yeah.
of like reaching into places that are a little bit like, huh, what are they saying? Um, I still really like to hone back to this, that one of the biggest things that I think keeps a lot of us in a place of not growing is shame, and
Mhm,
is this idea of I'm doing it wrong, or something's very wrong with me, right?
mhm, mhm,
And so as we have this conversation of like, here, just expand, here, go into the field, right? I'm just
mhm,
wanting to just remind people that that's a journey for each person, and you yourself are
mhm.
going to, like, discover that on your own timing and your own way.
Yes.
And if you don't get it, nothing's wrong with you, right? And nothing's
Yeah.
wrong with us. This is our experience. We're sharing it. We're sharing what we've seen in our practice and what we know to work. But just because someone doesn't get it right now, that doesn't mean that you're not, like, strong enough or smart enough or spiritual enough. Like, no, take that away. Please take that away. That's not what this conversation is about. So I just want to say that.
Mhm. Uh, yeah, I I feel something connected to that is, I actually have made I practice something consciously, uh, and where this particularly comes up is when I do closer work with people, and that is that I don't join them in their pain or in their story of their pain. Uh, and sometimes people have experienced this, that I'm un or I want to make everything rosy or something like that. But the thing is, and I do know what that feels like because I have in previous periods of my life kind of needed to make things rosy because I didn't know how to connect with my own pain and journey through it instead of treading water above it.
Mm.
But, And, look, I'm human and I'm a work in progress, and I'm sure there's material in there that's yet to be faced. But
Yeah.
the difference is that I trust that journey for myself now, and that as I keep engaging in creation for creation's sake, that's my healing journey now. Whatever it is that needs to come up to be faced comes up through my acts of creation. It's what happens. And so for me, I really reside in this place most of the time of sort of welcoming people into a no problem field. But that doesn't mean, this is to piggyback on what you said, that doesn't
Yes.
mean that I'm not acknowledging that they have pain and problems. I'm just not joining them in the story or the dynamic, because my job is to reside in this field as we've been referring to it. So, I wanted to say that. I think I wanted to say it for my own self, to hear it out loud, to
Yeah.
also acknowledge the difference between slapping a happy face on something and actually making a choice to reside somewhere, because I know that that's how I'm of greatest service to myself and others.
Yeah.
And that is not in any way about, I mean, I have to say, like, I'm able to hold a field of such, like, radical acceptance for the human condition. It sometimes blows me away. And the reason why, at least that I'm aware of, that I'm able to do that is because I've been through a tremendous amount in my life, a tremendous amount, and I've witnessed a tremendous amount, and stayed, you know, with it, to feel and to come
Yeah.
through the other side. And you can feel that quality in another human. That's what I feel in you, in your presence and how you navigate. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. I'm in complete agreement. Thank you for saying that. I think it's good to
Mm,
acknowledge that piece. It's we're both, right? We're choosing to not connect with that part because it's not of service. But that doesn't mean there's not an acknowledgement and a compassion
mhm,
and an
mhm,
understanding, right?
mhm,
So I love the way you
mhm,
say that. Yeah,
mhm,
I
mhm.
feel the same way, Tiffany. I do.
And in terms of that choosing not to connect with that part, it's like how I experience it is a choice not to engage with that whole orientation, to plug into that whole orientation, that there's something wrong that needs to be figured out, or somebody's at fault, or any of these number of things that we've talked about throughout here.
Yeah,
Maybe this will end up being where we pick up if we have a second dialogue. For
sounds
anyone
good.
who's been watching, if you could share more about anything that you want people to know about your work or how to connect with you, and we'll close out there.
Oh, you want me to just say that, not talking?
Yeah, yeah, say it here. I mean, I'll put your links and everything in the show notes, but say here if anybody wants to connect with you more, or whatever it is that you want to share with people about your work.
So, let's see. So if I have my website there in right below, and you're welcome to go there and just see all the different offerings. I offer retreats. I have a Pathways to Pain Relief retreat coming up in March of 2027. But
Mm,
in October,
amazing.
um, I'm sorry, the end of September, I'm really excited about doing something called the Pathways Pain Collective. And it's a 6-week course where we're doing live sessions to just really help people begin to do what we're talking about. Figure out, what is your relationship to pain? What are the things you need? What are the things you don't need? And
Mm,
just going through that whole process over a 6-week period. And
wow.
so I'm looking forward to those two offerings. I do have an online course that you can also access on my website, and you can there's a contact me page if you have any questions and want to reach out to me. That would be wonderful. And yeah, I still do acupuncture. I love doing acupuncture. It's great fun. But I'm really loving doing more of this one-on-one mentoring with people, just in whatever needs to be mentored. But I
Mm.
do have a lot of experience with pain, and I do work with a lot of kids. I love working with the kids.
Oh,
So
so cool.
there's that.
Ah, okay. And for me, I love to point people to the Lumina Guild, which is luminaguild.com, or my Master Creator Academy if you want to find out more about what's on offer. And Shannon, stay on. I'm going to hit end. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And whatever platform you watch this on, if you'd like to put comments, if there's a comments section, please do. And maybe comment on what you would like to hear us speak more about.